everyone! I was inspired by Hypergraffiti's video review of the best books she's read in 2012, which you can find linked in the doobly-doo, and I wanted to do one of my own, so here it is. On my Goodreads page last year, I said that I wanted to read 50 books in 2012, and I did fall short of that goal. I only read 26 this year, and maybe I was overreaching myself, but I've always considered myself a reader, so I didn't think that it was too far out of reach. It's just that at the time I didn't have a full-time job, and now I do, so maybe that was part of it. Also, I think that when I was in New Zealand a couple of years ago, I read a lot, and then I came back to the States and I had internet whenever I wanted it, and television and everything else, and I stopped reading so much, which I think is kind of sad, and I'd really like to up my game in 2013, so I'm going to put myself forward a goal of 30 books in 2013, which I think is a little bit more reasonable. The best books that I read this year are kind of a mix. One of them is nonfiction and the rest are fiction, and a couple of them are YA novels actually. Only one of them was published in 2012. I'm not a big new fiction reader. I don't generally run out and buy books when they come out. I just read them when I feel like it. So the rest of them were all published earlier than 2012. The first one I read right at the beginning of the year, and it's a nonfiction novel called Garlic and Sapphires by Ruth Reichl, who is the editor-in-chief of Gourmet magazine. It's a memoir of her time in the 90s as the New York food critic, and I really enjoyed this book. My mom got it as one of the book swap things that she does, and I loved it so much I actually wouldn't let her give it back. I have a copy of it somewhere in a box. I haven't unpacked yet, and I moved here in July. I really enjoyed this novel because Reichl has a clean, conversational style of writing. Her descriptions of the food and the restaurants and everybody else in the book they're endlessly fascinating, and I really enjoyed her exploration of the disguises and the characters that she put on, and her examination of how that made her feel, how that affected her family, and how it affected her job. It is an engaging, witty read, and she's not afraid to put herself in a negative light to tell her story or get her point across. I highly recommend it. The second book was also published in 2006, just like Garlic and Sapphires, and it is the Temeraire series by Naomi Novik. I read the first 3 books of this series as a compendium this year, and it's a reimagining of history. It's the Napoleonic Wars with dragons. The writing style is a little old-fashioned, and it's not for everyone, but I felt like it really enhanced my experience of reading the novel. What I really liked about this book was that the main character, Lawrence, grows as a person over the course of the series. He changes his mind, he agonizes over what he considers to be moral dilemmas, and he's a dynamic character. Temeraire, who is his dragon, is also a wonderful character, and he's very likable, more so than Lawrence a lot of the time. The other thing I really liked about the novel is that Naomi Novik uses the story and also Temeraire's character as a platform to explore some of the oppressions that were happening at the time, like slavery and the treatment of women in polite society, as women can also be captains of dragons in the Dragon Corps in this novel. I loved the concept of adding dragons to the Napoleonic War, and I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of the books in this series. The third book I want to talk about is Deerskin by Robin McKinley, and it was published in 2005. It's a retelling of the classic fairy tale Donkey Skin by Charles Perrault, and it's a dark fantasy novel. It follows the journey of Lisla Lissar and her dog Ash. I'm going to mispronounce her name every single time. Lisla Lissar. I was surprised to find out that some people classify this as a young adult novel, because although it's a coming-of-age story, it really deals with dark adult themes, and there's a quite traumatic event and the aftermath that happens in the beginning of the novel. And I think it would really take a very mature young adult reader to really grasp the concepts put forward in this novel. I really liked following along with Lisla Lissar and her dog Ash on her journey, and that I loved the magical aspects of the story. It was a beautiful story, and It was a quick read, and I really liked it. The last book that I want to talk about is by far the best book that I read in 2012. I don't normally play favorites like that, but it was so far and above what else I read this year that I had to give it the #1 spot. It's called The Fault in Our Stars, and it's by John Green. I've been a fan of John Green for a long time through his video blogging with his brother Hank, link in the doobly-doo. But I have read all of his other novels, and I am a fan, so take my review with a grain of salt. The Fault in Our Stars is a young adult novel. It's technically a cancer novel. It's a book about a book, and I just found it really incredibly well written. I loved it. John Green spent a year as a chaplain in a children's hospital, and you can really feel his experiences coming through in the book. His characters are well-rounded and wonderful and quirky without being unrealistic. I thought it was incredibly well written. It's funny, it's sad, it's a love story, and it's about meeting your heroes and finding out that they're real people. So those are my book reviews for 2012. Hopefully in 2013 I'll have a little bit more to talk about, and it's so nice to meet you face to face.